Welcome back to Mornings with the Mayor. I'm your host, Mayor Robert Dye, coming to you live, maybe from the last time, from my kitchen here in Farmers Branch. The hope, as always, is to give you all a deeper look into our city by talking with city staff, community partners, and special guests to discuss a variety of topics and interests to our community. Given today's guest, I figured I'd be a good sport and wanted to let you know that the sponsor for today is Starbucks Coffee, located at Valley View 35. Since businesses were allowed to reopen Friday, I found it an opportune time to feature them for today's episode, which is episode 4. And we have John Land, Deputy City Manager, and Allison Cook, Director of Economic Development, with us today. What's been good, y'all? How have y'all been doing, staying safe and staying home?
It's been an adjustment, but it's been good. Yeah.
Allison?
Valley.
You know what? We're getting through it. I've never cooked so much in my life, but I'll deal with it.
Are the boys enjoying that cooking, or is it just an experiment as we go?
They haven't complained so far about the cooking. I think the dogs have enjoyed it the most.
Okay, good. And so, John, I wanted to start off with, do you know whose birthday it is today?
You know what, Robert? What is today? The 29th?
Yeah, don't look it up.
No, I got to look it up. It's not anybody of note.
There's not one rapper on there that you would know. But yeah, I will tell you that it's, quite the list today. Oh. Daniel Day-Lewis, Uma Thurman, Willie Nelson, Michelle Pfeiffer, Jerry Seinfeld, and Andre Agassi.
So far, I did not hear a hip hop artist.
As I said, there's none that you would have known or that I don't think I would have recognized either.
Right. That's why it's not on my calendar.
Yeah. Well, I know that's how you like to start most of your meetings, so I didn't want to hold you back today by not introducing that while we got started. But quick question. I just want to know, how come we don't have any outtakes of you, John, on the economic development update videos?
There's a couple of reasons. One, I don't make mistakes. So it would be hard to have an outtake. The other thing is I don't add any value, so I've never been asked to be on one.
Okay. Good. That's, might be a fair point.
Those are both true points. I can verify.
Now, Allison, I guess it's true because of that. You didn't want John to be on here today because he's always trying to take your spotlight.
He always tries to get the last word. It doesn't matter what we're doing, what we're talking about. He's just got to get the last word.
That's just not true.
Not true. Well, John, I remember you yelling at me quite often when I was a young man at the Farmers Branch Showman Rec Center, who used to just kind of loiter around. You've kind of had an interesting past through the city of Farmers Branch. Go through some of your background.
Yeah, so I was a student at the University of North Texas and was studying to be a football coach. And as it turns out, the entire staff of my high school was let go, and I didn't have a job. And so I was changing majors, and I needed to get into a fitness setting. And there were Wimberly Shepard was a student at University of North Texas and recommended applying for a part-time summer job at the rec center. And I applied for it as a senior at University of North Texas, majoring in corporate fitness. And I didn't even get an interview. I got an immediate no thank you letter. So I followed that up with just, thanks for considering my application. Keep my resume on file should something change. And I signed an unemployed student. For whatever reason, that left an impression with the manager. The person they hired didn't show up for work. And she called and said, there's 2 months left in the summer. Are you interested? So it was basically a 2-month minimum wage job at the rec center, and I taught fitness classes and chased rugrats out of the gym, wet mop gym floors, broke up fights. But that's where I started with the city. And I fell in love with everybody that I worked with and what the community stood for. I was in 7 positions in my first 7 years and eventually went over to our chamber and was there for 8. So my first 15 years of life after college was in Farmers Branch.
That's impressive. And, now you're almost all the way to the top. So,
Started at the bottom, now I'm here.
Exactly. I knew setting you up for that one. But, Allison, you always rep the H. But if my math checks out, you've been in DFW a lot longer than you were in Houston. So with your SMU roots, why aren't you repping the DFW region a little bit more?
You're right. That is funny. I have lived here longer. I do miss Houston time to time. I do not miss the humidity. But going to college here, and I moved away a little bit and came back, and it really has served me well in my professional life because I've got to use connections that started when I was 18 years old.
Okay. And you kind of, I guess, your connection to John is kind of how you got to Farmers Branch as well. How would you, can you give a little background on how you came from your previous opportunity to the one here at Farmers Branch?
Sure. It was a very strange and unusual interview process. We can just all agree on that. I was working for a consulting firm that we use, and one of the partners had said, hey, Farmers Branch is opening up a new position, and they knew John, and they told me a little bit about it. So I met him and learned about it, and I thought this would be a nice next step to learn about local government. I didn't know much about local government, and I really learned a lot in my first year. I thought I would just be here 1 year. That's a true story. So, and after 1 year, I realized I have such respect for what goes on at the local level. And there is always so much to learn, not in just your department, but the others. But the process was a series of interviews over several months. And some of those were, I didn't even know it, invited to a group outing to see how I would interact with the public, which is ridiculous because I'm an extrovert. And then another one was trying to keep a business. And John called the owner and said, please don't take her phone call. And I was led to believe that they were leaving. So I did turn that business around because they, right on the brink of leaving. So I turned that around, and that's when they knew we have to hire her. Is that how it went, John? Oh, and then the group interview, sorry. 5 people that all made, I guess, the cut. And then Charles Cox, Steve Parker, and John Land on one side of a table giving everybody these questions. And I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And somehow this is where I've been. And actually, I've really enjoyed it. It's been a pleasant experience, but I just love the people.
It's awesome. It's good to hear. Good to see that it kind of backs into why some people refer to you as Allison Nope. Having to run through a lot of those shenanigans. But what's a day in the life of an ED director, and then John, the deputy city manager, in the city, and John, with you, let's look at that on some of the focus, because I know you kind of help out in some of the economic development roles as well. But yeah, I just want to get a little more clarity on what y'all's normal day looks like here in the city.
Allison, you want to start, or would you like me to?
Sure, I can start. There's not a typical day in the life of someone in economic development, because every day and every week, you're going to be presented with something that's very unexpected. So you got to have the personality that is able to stay calm under pressure and solve problems while you're doing your job, while you're doing all the things that you're required to do in your job description. There's a whole host of things that are never written down in a job description that you will find in just the economic development career. And so typically I go through my day making sure I'm knocking off all the things that I'm supposed to be doing within my week, the scheduled task and things of that nature. There's always an email. There's always, whether it's a business owner or a resident or something like that, that has a question or concern. And I really have enjoyed getting to know the businesses and the residents. I only really know the residents through our demo rebuild program and our neighborhood renaissance program and some of those programs, some more of a business capacity. But I can't say there's a typical day, and you do have to be able to just pivot and kind of not lose your cool while you make sure that you're able to get your tasks done. So nothing is typical in my department. We are so different from every other department. And the nature of the people in economic development, when we all get together, we kind of have similar personalities, which is kind of needed. You really cannot be an introvert hiding behind your door in a position like this. It's kind of the opposite. So, John, what about you?
Yeah, so on a typical day, I get up at about 4:40 in the morning and work out at 5. And then I read scripture after that and I make a list for the day. And that's probably the last time that list is valid. I start checking my email. Charles typically is up at about 4:30 in the morning and start sending emails out. So I start responding to his emails. When I get to work, I try to go by, I have 5 departments, and I try to go by and stop by and see those folks. How's it going? What are we working on? Just make sure that we're all on the same page. There's a lot of moving targets and a lot of changes. This is typically this day is when we're able to be in the building. So anyway, get back. I try to be back in my office just before lunch after meeting with everybody, responding to emails, phone calls, and in the afternoon, it's working on the project du jour. A lot of those are economic development. And honestly, the way we're structured, whether it's an economic development project, a lot of what we're working on has an economic development impact anyway, whether it's quality of life for residents, or it's recruiting a business, or it's retaining a business, or it's retaining an employee. I firmly believe, you've heard the saying that every day is a job interview. I always believe every day is a counteroffer. And so we're trying to make sure that we've put our team in a position where they can win. And there's meetings almost every single night. So, planning and zoning is, second and fourth Mondays. We have public art and culture. You have zoning board of appeals. You have city council. Seems like there's a meeting every single night of the week. So you just kind of go nonstop, but I love it. I'm structured to do that. And I really enjoy that. I don't require a whole lot of sleep. So it works out well for me.
Well, it's good because, right when you guys are getting up, I'm probably sending my last emails for the day and then going to bed.
I get emails from Charles that I think your 9 to 5 and Charles's 9 to 5 are very different.
Absolutely. But, jumping in, maybe just jumping around a little, feeding off of what you were talking about in terms of, deals getting done and just, finding ways to be creative there. Y'all's team scored some big wins this past year. Trinity, Scout and Cellar, Tenet Healthcare. I know there was fierce competition with a lot of the surrounding cities in terms of incentive packages, but how were we able to ink those deals when we don't have the same resources that a lot of the other cities like, the Friscos, the Salinas, the Prospers, the McKinneys, the Coppells that are 4A, 4B cities that get to keep their full, 2 cents on the sales tax rate to apply towards economic development and other things. So how are we able to stay as competitive as we are, land big companies like this that not only brings, several thousand jobs to our city, but also, in certain distributors bring in groups that are going to generate huge sales tax revenue for our city based on what they're shipping out?
Well, there are a couple answers. So it's a layered approach. But you mentioned the 4A, 4B cities. So in the world of local municipality, when you buy into DART, so to speak, DART being our local transportation, if you are a DART city, then half of your sales tax goes to fund DART. Now, Frisco's and other cities, Arlington, they don't buy into DART. So they don't have those services for their residents and businesses, but we do. So we don't have the full 2%. We have 1% for our sales tax. So that's why some cities look like they have an enormous amount of cash and they do these deals and they give an enormous amount of money out, because they do. So we're structured differently. But where we think we win the most is our location. We feel like as a first ring suburb, we are right at Main on Main. To me, Dallas North Tollway and 635 for the larger Metroplex is kind of Main on Main. And when you're thinking about, as a large employer, you have a couple hundred people and everybody's going to commute into your building. And what is the least hurdle for everybody? What is the greatest advantage? And so if you kind of did a point of time, I said, say 20-minute drive time or 30-minute drive time is probably the threshold that somebody wants for a commute or could handle. That probably puts everything on that North Dallas Tollway within reason. So if you look, start up at the Oxy Tower, now called the Pinnacle Tower, at the northwest corner of 635 and the Tollway, and then you go all the way up past Spring Valley to International Plaza, which is a beautiful Class A building. You also have the Centura Tower and then the Providence Tower with the hole in the middle, and it has Panda on the top. When you look at all those Class A buildings, and then we have single tenant buildings that people can take down and retrofit and put their employees in, I feel like our location is one of those key factors. We also have access to affordable neighborhoods and Brookhaven Country Club and things of that nature. We have a low tax rate compared to other cities. So we also don't have the same amount of impact fee structure. So it depends on the development, and it depends if it's an office user. But you mentioned tenant healthcare. We did a very, very, very small incentive compared to what they were being offered at other cities. But they still chose International Plaza. So did Trinity Industries. And then you got to ask why. And the same reason comes because the real estate has to work first. And then the incentives should be on the back end. If you are dealing with a company and they need that money to get in, you probably should, there's some red flags there. They don't have the cash to get in. They don't have the cash to operate. So the incentive should be a piece of the pie, but it shouldn't always be a large driving factor of how the decision is made. But I do understand how important it is, and we understand we have competition. And I love to get those large companies in. And at the end of the day, we can't win them all because sometimes those incentive dollars are just so great on the other side. But we are very happy with the ones that we have this year, and it's a team approach. It's their brokers, it's the brokers of the building, it's our city staff walking through, okay, what would this impact us? So it's not one person driving that deal, it's our whole village.
Yeah. I'd like to add to that too. I think speed plays a role in that. If you are a 4A or 4B corporation, you have your own board and you have to take a deal to your board. It has to be approved. And then you have to go to city council, and then city council has to approve it. That don't always happen in one meeting. Then you have to go to the planning office, and then you have to go to building inspections. You have to go to public works. We're all under one roof, and the way we're structured is all development services kind of fall under me. So we're all together as a team. And when we have something called Development Review Committee, where everybody that touches a deal is in one room at the beginning. And we can very quickly say, this is what it takes to get this deal. And we just you can go around the table and you can give feedback very, very quickly to a developer. In the case of Tenet, we were told by the incentive consultant that we were $9.6 million less in cash than a competing offer. And I absolutely believe that. But we were also familiar with the other locations. I'd actually toured one of them, and we knew that they had a walk-in ready building. Allison does a great job of staying in touch with the development community. She knows who the brokers are. She knows who the leasing agents are, and has real conversations about what's going on with negotiations. Where are you with your lease? What do they need? And in case of Tenet, they really needed speed, and we were able to deliver that to them. They had a lot of really unique needs that they needed. And we were the first one to the finish line, and honestly, with very, very little in the way of incentives.
Yeah, no, and that's, touching on that. I mean, you think about a lot of times it's location, right? And Allison, you brought that point up, and I truly believe, just with, my background in development as well. I mean, we find that with tenants all the time is, sometimes you might not have the cheapest building, or might not be able to offer the most amount of tenant improvements to somebody. But if they need to be in a location, they need to be there. And, being right in the middle of the Metroplex to allow the most amount of workers to be able to get to a central location, I think is important for a lot of people. And that's why, our location right there trumps that. But you also have to look at the overall, formula for what makes a location great. I'm assuming that the rental rate that tenants paying at International Plaza is, a few dollars cheaper than what they're paying, would have been paying up north. And when you factor that in for 13 floors and that number of people, sometimes that trumps the dollar amount that's coming out. And, speed to market definitely helps as well. So, I just want to commend y'all for y'all's work, not only there, but, we had similar discussions with Scout and Cellar and with Trinity as well, to get those organizations to come to our east side as we're trying to revitalize that. Has been just absolutely a huge win for our city as we've been coming, up, through this last year. But What's been the greatest challenge in terms of bringing in the right development partners to the city that see our vision and want to be a part of that and are willing to work with us to help grow and revitalize areas of our city in line with that vision?
John, do you want to take that?
Sure. We're a first ring suburb, and we're, for the most part, with the exception of Mercer, we're built out. So anything that you come in and do is not green development. It's brown. You already have it developed, and you have to kind of fit that. And it's not for everybody. It's hard. It's not. You can go to Frisco and plug in and know what the base is there. This takes a special relationship, and we tend to shy away from folks that you can do a lot of research on development, and there's a lot of folks they're going to come in, they're going to make their money, and they're going to get out and leave you with a problem. And we really, really push for quality. We work really, really hard to make this project the absolute best that it can be for the developer, for the tenant, and for the city. And you get a lot of pushback, and you can see what people are pushing back on, and you can kind of see this may not be our best fit because they're pushing back on quality regulations, and they're going to come in and get out. If you look at the station area, I think one of the keys there is ownership. The development partner that we have, their tendency is to buy things and keep them. And we thought that was really critical for that, because when you own something, you have a lot more pride in it because you're going to be there. It's yours. You're the ones getting the calls. And when you go out and look at that, you're showing your developments to other communities about what you've done somewhere else. And we really felt that was critical and one of the success metrics for the station area.
Yeah. And I mean, when you talk about the station area, we have the RFP that's out right now and should get that back mid-June as we look to potentially partner with a larger developer to take down the areas of land that we have in and around, the DART station. But, how are we trying to ensure that, our station area is a success when you consider the developments in Las Colinas, Cypress Waters, MacArthur, downtown Carrollton, the Trinity Mills station? How do we see Farmers Branch differentiating ourselves and finding a niche to be successful in this area when there's a lot of different things that we might want to put in that area, and some of these others where it would allow us to find something that's unique, that's going to draw people to this area that would allow for the most success. And as we look to the partners that we're looking to bring in with the RFP, what's been kind of some of their sentiments in terms of moving forward with us in that vision?
Well, in response to the RFP, we put a couple parameters in the original RFQ that spoke to the desire of our station area to be a unique destination-driven area. So we were not looking for a cookie cutter development. We were not looking like, we didn't want everything else you find along the DART rail. We did want it to be unique and special, but we also didn't want to copy all the other developments. We want to see what these architects and what these developers are bringing to the table while we listed what our deliverables, what we wanted, and what the council was seeking in the station area. So I think mid-June in the summer, we will see some really creative packages. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but we did have some ideas for arts and culture and entertainment woven into those things, as well as seasonal decorations and things of that nature. So we were wanting to create a very special sense of place that is uniquely driven, that is not something you can find somewhere else, which is kind of how we built the Shops at Mustang Station. We started with tenants that are chef-driven, destination-driven restaurants. So they're not chain restaurants. And that kind of set the tone for the station area. Cox Farms Market is an example. That's not a grocery you find in every city. Cedar Creek Brewhouse and Eatery was a combination with luck from Trinity Grove and Cedar Creek Brewery. So it takes longer to go out and find those types of tenants than it is to find your national chain tenants, but it's so much worth it in the end with the type of place that you want to go to and hang out on the weekends and live near a DART station, so you can use the DART rail if you need that for work or to go down the American Airlines Center or wherever you're going. So we really want a special, unique place. And those are the things that we put in the RFQ. And I have seen some examples before. They haven't been submitted yet, but I've seen the questions and the examples, and I'm very excited to see what we get back mid-June.
Yeah. You know, and our Public Art and Culture Committee is working on forming a cultural arts district in that area. If you look at all the amenities that are there, we have our historical park, which is one of the best kept secrets in North Texas. It's an absolute jewel of the community. You have the Firehouse Theater, you have Rose Gardens. When you ride the DART station and you get to the Farmers Branch station, it's remarkable. It's like you've just landed in the Garden of Eden. And we love the connectivity with downtown Carrollton. They have a lot of great things there, and it's one stop away. And so we think there's a lot of synergies there. We don't look at that as competition, but maybe co-opetition, because there's things that they do that our citizens will enjoy and benefit from. And it's a very, very easy connection. It's very, very walkable. And as Allison mentioned, you know, one of the keys is ownership, and you've got chef-driven, owned concepts, and they're going to be there. They're going to make sure that it's successful because they own that. This isn't one of 30 locations for them. This is like one of one or one of two or one of three. And they're really, really good. We went a long way to kind of vet out these chefs. We met with a lot of different folks, sat down with them, talked to them about their vision. What does success look like to you? Why Farmers Branch? And I think we really ended up with a great mix. And I think that's going to be successful. When this whole project started, the retail was supposed to be under phase one of Mustang Station Apartments. We really hadn't seen that many examples of that being successful. And we had to kind of go back to the drawing board with the developer and tease that retail out. So it gave that Valley View presence. And it was something that could be sustainable and unique and stand on its own. So yeah, a lot of that's just having conversations with folks that are stakeholders.
Yeah, and as we have, more and more of those conversations, it's also conversations like we recently had with a bunch of stakeholders in the area as we were looking to rezone some of the areas in the station area, because as you just talked about, we have to make sure that we're able to find the right developers who are putting projects in our spaces, that we feel are going to be the greatest benefit, not only to our city, but to the revitalization of an area to create the most success in terms of, as I speak to the station area, like the walkability, the retail, the restaurants where people want to connect. And, when you think about how small our city is and not being a 4A, 4B city and having to jump through all those hoops, we realized that we had a few open areas, let's say, in the station area form-based code that could have potentially allowed some different uses that might not have conformed with the overall vision that we were thinking, but we were able to work quickly, with our neighborhood partners to get full buy-in on why we were making certain changes to, provide the most amount of success. And we've already seen that some of those efforts have already been, I would say, fruitful in terms of, ensuring that what we're going to have going forward is in line with that vision. But, let's speak to, some of the changes that are going to happen in the station area as we look to go forward, as we're looking at potentially exploring the idea of a road diet along Valley View, just through the station area and potentially along Denton as well. And how is that going to play into some of the enhancements and changes that we're seeing with the I-35 corridor, especially as TxDOT's coming in and expanding the highway, but with the new vision study that we're looking at going forward through the whole corridor.
When you start on that one, Ellie?
Sure.
So if you look at, like, for example, on Denton Drive, it's 2 lanes until you get to Farmers Branch, and then it becomes a raceway for 4 lanes, and then it goes to Carrollton, and it goes down to 2. And I don't know the logic behind that, and we really need to slow traffic down there. There's not a tremendous amount, but it goes fast. And when we have events in the Grove, and we have events at the Star Center, and people are trying to cross the road, you don't really feel terribly safe crossing that. And we really need to kind of slow that down and make it more pedestrian friendly, more bike friendly, and just have people slow down and realize what's there. And when you look at Valley View, we've got the Firehouse Theater north of Valley View, and we've got the Restaurant Park south. And for a very small stretch, we've looked at traffic counts. The traffic counts are roughly half of what they were when 635 was under construction. So we know it's that we're carrying far less traffic than we used to. And we have an area that's out onto the street that we think would benefit from having some walkability, having expanded patios. We were talking about that on an earlier call about the need for people to be outside and to socially distance. So that's going to allow some of those things to happen. I think it's going to really enhance the area. It adds beauty. You have crosswalk art. And it really, when you drive by that, you realize, man, this is phenomenal. And you look at some other places that have done that, and at first it's a little bit of a nuisance for folks that I've got my commute timed exactly to the minute, and I'm here, and it a minute feels like forever. But if you realize that, hey, that was, maybe that's a 2-minute delay, but you look at what you get as a result of that, you're going to see people outside walking around and trying to cross from, what we're hoping happens when the Firehouse Theater has an event is people are going to go to the restaurant park and eat and then walk across the street and go to the Firehouse Theater. Well, crossing 6 lanes of traffic doesn't feel particularly safe, and it doesn't feel particularly connected. But four is very manageable. If you're crossing 4 lanes with the median, that feels different. And all of a sudden, it really starts feeling like a place. That's what we're trying to create in that station area is our place. The downtown we never had.
And, you brought up socially distancing, and maybe it's, always an interesting time to jump into, how we've been affected by coronavirus and the stay safe, stay home orders for the last several weeks. But what have discussions been like with some of our local businesses, and what have been some of the biggest challenges in finding new ways to help them navigate these uncharted waters, and how can we still navigate and generate new deals, as we're going forward in new development opportunities with coronavirus going on?
Well, the past few weeks, I've had several calls and emails from businesses questioning the specifics of an order. And so being able to give them the correct information and show them on our website where to find information about loan programs and things like that pertain exactly to their specific business has been how we are helping. We also reached out. We have someone in economic development that is a business visitation person. And so she has visited with over 200 companies in the past month. I reached out the first several weeks to the businesses that I knew and just said, hey, how can we help you? What is going on? So everybody's got their own unique need, and everyone has something specific to solve. And then the other side of that, we asked some of our large businesses, will you please, if they were essential business, will you please shop local? Will you please consider, if you're going to your business, knowing our restaurants had to close, please consider doing delivery and takeout, and maybe do a very large order and helping the small. So we've asked the large businesses to help the small businesses, and we have seen them do so. But to your question about what are businesses asking for now, it's all different, and it's specific to their industry and how their industry is able to open and things of that nature. So we give them the literature, we give them the right source so they can interpret that, and we just help them walk through it. How can we help them moving forward? It'll be different by industry, but staying in communication is number one. So first of all, the relationships, knowing who to call, and they have your number and they know you. So they feel comfortable reaching out to me, because this really is when you value a relationship with a business. For years, you spend years getting to know people and seeing them at different events and maybe entertaining them. But this is the time where they really do need you. And so they know you well enough to just pick the phone up and call and ask that question, and it's critical. So we've had some very difficult situations. We have some businesses, very old businesses, that were, forced to not open by the nature of what they sold. And it's so hard, because you want to solve every problem and you want to help every business, and you want to say, hey, we're gonna step in and solve this. But we can't step in and solve every business and every problem. And so just being able to be there for them and keeping them calm and giving them some reassurances and giving them the correct information, so they don't have to spend a lot of time going through a county order or a state order and things of that nature, has really been helpful for them. And so we've had a lot of positive, nice emails back just thanking us for our help, because they're already stressed trying to figure out how to remodel their business. They don't need another layer of, what does this mean?
Yeah. I think providing clarity. I mean, particularly early on, there were so many changes. It seems like there was a a new order that was coming out almost every other day.
Right.
And the strategy was, hey, just have them go to the county. There's an email, they can go there and the county will tell them you're an essential business, you're not an essential business. And we really didn't want that impersonal touch. So we said, have them call us and we're going to walk through this with you. And I think just providing a sense of calm and confidence, hey, we're here for you. We're going to be here for you when this is back to normal, but this is a change and let's get through this. And just systematically kind of going through that and providing clarity. And then as things change, there's new information that goes out and we make sure that our businesses have that in our hands. A lot of it though is this constant conversation. We're in a relationship business. One of the strengths of Allison and her team, or they know everybody, they know the folks in the community and they stay in contact with them. And it's not always great news, but at least it's from the source. Here's what's happening. Here's how long it's going to happen as far as we know. And here's what's going to happen after that. And just, people's fear a lot of time is of the unknown. And if you just know, it's like, okay, I can deal with something that's known. But when I don't understand it, that's when fear starts building up.
Yeah, and I mean that's one thing that I found working with both of you through this trying time is how can we get creative? We're not, as we mentioned earlier, we're not a 4A 4B city. We don't have this extra pool of money to pull from to reallocate to provide grant opportunities, and we need to get more creative to figure out how we can help our businesses, like reaching out to the large corporations to help the small businesses. But I also think about, the trips made to a lot of the local restaurants to talk about, what's the number you need daily to be able to stay open and understand those unique challenges, and getting to the point that Allison talked about of each business is different. Each business has different needs, and understanding some of that. And I think what we found through that was, how do we pair, some restaurants needed $500 a day, right? To keep their doors open, a few people employed and moving so that they can make it through this difficult time. And one of the situations that ended up coming from that is, some of the meals that we give out to our seniors, and partnering with these restaurants to provide those meals that give them the income they need potentially on a daily basis. But then we have a great staff at the Branch Connection and in our Parks and Rec department and y'all's departments to find the right sponsors to sponsor some of these meals for the needy and vulnerable in our community. That it's a whole kind of ecosystem of people helping each other out to get through this. And I think that creativity and the way that you guys have found new ideas to be innovative and find ways to get not only our residents, but other people to come to our city to shop local has been just phenomenal to help some of this, help us get through a lot of this. But, not only is it our small businesses and our retailers that are struggling. There's a lot of uncertainty right now with the new normal in terms of what's retail look like going forward. Right. What about office space now that more people are getting used to staying at home and working from home and doing things on Zoom, kind of like we're doing. But and with the service industries, how do we see this playing out in our community, and what should we be focused on to ensure our recovery is as quick as possible? Going forward from that, once we kind of understand what those challenges might be.
I'd say the key thing right now is listening, because we don't know. We can try to guess, but how are people going to feel about going out to a restaurant again? And are they going to feel comfortable, with a packed restaurant? We talked earlier on a call about, how many restaurants have to take your card to the back and swipe it. How do you feel about somebody touching your card? So we don't know how people are going to respond, but we do know that we're going to get feedback, and we're going to have to be listening. We're going to have to be in contact with folks as we open, and we're going to have to adjust. We've learned a lot. We still have a city to run, and we've had to adjust. We can't be at City Hall, someplace, the police department, the fire department, they've all had to adjust. One of the things that we found, we have 3 daily calls, or at least I do. I have either an 8 or an 8:30 with Charles and Ben, and then we talk about what do we need to tell our team. And at 9 o'clock, there's a team meeting where we tell everybody in a very short amount of time, here's what's happening, here's what's not happening, questions, and then we move on. And then at the end of the day, we have a briefing. Those are 15-minute meetings that have just been critical into making sure everybody's on the same page, and we listen to our teams that way, and they're listening for management, and it kind of eliminates the fear. I think we're going to have to continue to do that with our residents and our business community. What could be better? we're just going to have to learn. We've talked about how can we relax outdoor patios because people may not feel comfortable being inside dining. Maybe they need to be outside and there needs to be more space. How do we adjust to make that happen? So I think, we're our eyes are open, we're listening, and I think we have to be soliciting input constantly.
I agree.
That is a first.
Yeah.
Is this recorded?
Yeah, we'll send you a copy of that. So
is that an outtake or is that an actual comment?
We'll just turn it into a GIF so you can send it to Allison whenever you need
I agree.
to. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought some of that up because I think this is an opportune time for us as a community too to take a look at some of these spaces and what we've always had and how can we reimagine some of this stuff going forward that brings a little more flexibility as people are looking to come back. And unfortunately, there will be some lost businesses. There will be some lost jobs. People are going to be hurting, but we've partnered with MetroCrest Services a number of times, and several different other organizations in our community are doing so many great things to help out those that are vulnerable. But I think, being able to listen and also with an eye on revitalizing some of the areas that might take the biggest hit. What can we do to prepare them to ramp back up? Because it's not just the businesses, it's the owners of these spaces as well that are trying to navigate through this as well with lost rent and a whole bunch of other things that they had notes on these buildings. And the last thing we want is a bunch of places going dark or a few other, troubles that come with some of the financial distress if they're not getting leased up. And that's going to be an interesting side of this is how fast do we get back? Is this a 4-quarter, 5-quarter recovery, or is this a 12 quarter recovery, which is the last thing I want to see, and which is why we're so focused on sharing the message of now that we're reopening the economy in Texas, we all need to be smart about how we go forward with that. And in terms of being smart and looking ahead. We've had huge success on our west side with the number of, residential multifamily developments, retail coming. The east side is in the middle of a bunch of new development as well with a lot of the multifamily going up, but also, using the facade grant, a lot of the older kind of functionally obsolete spaces have, reimagined their front door and, the spaces and tenants that they're bringing in. But, what's kind of our city's next great opportunity outside of just the West Side Station area and the East Side, or is that kind of it? We just need to manage those right now, or is it still keeping that eye on the future of where else we have possibility to make some improvements?
Well, when you say the next great opportunity, I would have answered months ago. We've been seeing new and creative tenants going into the East Side on those science streets, so to speak. Alpha around Omega, Neutron, and Beta, and things of that nature. So you're seeing some single tenant buildings getting retrofitted and having new life breathed into them with some interesting uses. For example, years ago, Cadillac Barbecue went into a industrial building, and it is mid-block on one of those streets and hard to find. Yet people find that and they wait in a long line. And so you've been seeing that time and time again. The facade grant has helped with some of those buildings, with changing the exterior. And along Spring Valley Road, Spring Valley Office Park, that was purchased a year and a half ago by an investor, and they have basically reskinned it, and it's about where Odd Muse Brewery is. And so you're seeing some new life come to the East Side, and the corner where Benny Bagels is at Midway Alpha, the southeast corner, that was retrofitted last year. So it's exciting to see what's going on the East Side. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that we are staying in touch with our businesses and the large owners of the shopping centers who have, most of them have completed facade grants, and we just know them otherwise. So we've already talked to them, and we have been in touch asking, hey, what is going on with your tenants this week and this month? And some have applied for the SBA loan program and have either received the money or waiting to receive the money. So everybody's in a little bit of a different situation. But I would say the East Side hopefully is continuing to have those tenants as you have seen going in. The station area will be the thing that we're kind of focused on right now, given that we had the RFQ and then the RFP. So that we have over 9 acres that we own down there that the city has bought, and that has been over a 20-year project. So good things take time, and we are not in a rush to sell that land, but we want to make sure we get the right partner. You asked about how we select partners a while ago. With time. We're not going to be in a rush. We're going to make sure that we understand what they can deliver and who they are and what they've built in the past, so that if we're going to get in a partnership to build the station area, kind of our little downtown, so to speak, that we've gone through all the checklists that we've needed to do. So we feel really comfortable that we've chosen the right person.
And I would add to that with the, with the 35 vision study, I think is that it's such an important time as we're developing our station area, which is east of that, and we're developing Mercer Crossing, which is west of that. That's going to be a real critical connection. One of our fears is we're going to have 1,000 houses on the west side that are probably going to feel like they're in Irving. That's where their schools are going to be. They're close to MacArthur shopping. They're close to Cypress Waters for dining. And we want to make sure that those folks are connected to Farmers Branch. So it's going to be critically important that we build that bridge. There's going to be connectivity between the station area and the west side. And we've got to give folks a business reason to connect that. We really think this 35 corridor is going to be a real key in kind of stitching those things together.
Yeah. And I mean, I like that you said bridge, because I know we got some good news coming for the community that's going to make that connection a lot easier and help us out in terms of connecting not only the west side, but, Irving, Valley Ranch, Coppell, and things further west to make it easier to get into Farmers Branch. But I think of, the betterments that we're fighting for with the, TxDOT project on the expansion of I-35 to make sure that connectivity underneath Valley View really, makes it something where people feel safe, traversing that area and, potentially riding their bike or walking from one side or another to get over to the station area, or the trails that are going to connect all the way through and bring it down Benton Street. There's just a lot of opportunity there. And, I would say on the east side, one thing that I'm excited about to see how that plays out and see if that brings in a second wave of development as we look to come out of kind of this lull as we're looking to future development, is the entertainment district that we're bringing over there, that kind of sends a signal to the market that we're looking for more of those creative uses that allow people to get out and, is it more nightlife? Is it, some more entertainment opportunities in terms of what can you do over there that we haven't been able to do in the past because it's just been warehouses, and how does that build an area for all the new multifamily units that are coming in on that side is that's probably going to be one of our densest areas in the city when it's all said and done. But you two have had a huge impact on the city over the years, and just want to ask each of you, maybe as you look forward, maybe not, or just look at it from right now, but when you look back, what do you look back on with the most pride in terms of your body of work in Farmers Branch?
For me, it will always be the relationships. Because you can point to buildings and you can point to development, but it's the people you worked with to build that. And it's the people that are inside working and bringing their office and bringing their hard-earned concept there. So always, it will be either my work colleagues, colleagues on council, or the business community, or the residents that I've met. So when I look back, it will be how we have helped those less fortunate by helping MetroCrest services, and how we have become friends, really. We have friendships with these business owners. We know them, we know their families, because it's been years that we've known them. So for me, I would say it's more relational.
And I'd say for me, it's the team that we've assembled. I think I started by saying I went to college to be a coach. And I thought one of the things that I had as a strength was seeing potential in people and scouting and putting people in a position to win. And every of the 5 departments that I'm responsible for, I personally hired each of the directors. And starting with Allison, that was a position that was supposed to be a retail specialist, and we really fought for retention. I've seen retention programs work very well in Midland and Frisco, and I really felt like we needed a robust retention program. And there was a lot a lot of pressure to get the right person. That's one reason we put Allison through the gauntlet so much, is we wanted to make sure we got it right. And she seemed too good to be true. I kept thinking, man, I'm missing something. There is no way that this is the right person. I remember when we had our group interview with Allison, we had narrowed it down to 6 finalists, and we said, we're interviewing you all at one time. And one of them said, well, I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's a professional setting. That's okay. We're trying to get it down to 1. And we had all of them stay out in the hallway for an uncomfortable amount of time, and we brought them in. And we really wanted to see, how do you interact with each other? And by the end of that interview, everybody knew who got the job. And I remember Steve Parker saying to me, he's like, man, I don't know if I would hire Allison because I don't think she'll be here very long. And I'm like, I would rather ride with the best for a day than settle for 5 years. And it's just worked out for both of us. But I would say, when I look at the team that we've assembled, that's my proudest accomplishment. That talent wins. And when you have tight budget years, you have creative people that figure things out. And when you have good budget years, you have creative people that figure out how to maximize the times. And people make money in every economy. And Farmers Branch is going to come out ahead when we're on the other side of this. And I think we have other communities looking to us to say, what are y'all doing about this? How are you handling this? I think we've been the first to market on a lot of different things. And Mayor, a lot of that's your credit. You're a really creative, tireless worker. And you empower the staff, but you come up with a lot of ideas. You provide a safety net for our team to express itself. But yeah, I think when I look back on our team, I'm really, really proud of the team that I get to work with.
Yeah, and I appreciate the kind words, but I do commend the effort that's been given to, as you've characterized it, is building a deep bench with so many individuals with so much institutional knowledge and knowledge on the city getting towards the end of their careers. We're now focused on building the next generation of leaders in Farmers Branch that are come forward with the great ideas to continue moving us forward. And I know that's been a focus of yours, and commend you for the work that you've done there, because seeing the talent that's been hired in every single department, at least during my time as mayor, it's just been a joy to work with everyone on the team, where we're going and what we've been able to accomplish has just been very exciting. But we're getting close to the hour mark, and wanted to hit you all with a few rapid fire questions. So start with Allison. What would you consider your favorite charity to give to? Is it Metro Crest Services? Is it the Endangered Bird Fund? Or is it the group that you work with in Africa that brings a lot of hope and future to kids that are in difficult situations there?
Well, that's a difficult one, because all 3 are really needy funds. And all 3 would love an infusion of cash right now. My local favorite, obviously, probably is Metro Crest Services, because I think they're really, really well run. And I have a lot of respect for Tracy Eubanks. He runs a tight ship, and we've seen him come every year and explain the services that they offer people. And so I have a real heart for that organization. Yes, but when you're thinking outside of the mainland, probably Touch a Life organization is my second favorite nonprofit, because they rescue kids that are in slavery. And when you think about what that means, it's so ridiculous for us to say, because we don't hear that here in the United States. So just because you can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not important. It's important, and you're impacting someone even if you can't touch it and feel it and see it. And so a friend of mine started that organization, so I know them personally, and that's how I got involved with that. The Endangered Bird Fund, that's a scary thing, because they're running on a shoestring budget, but they too need money, because you never know, kind of like COVID, when you would need funds to help out with what birds could do to people.
And they're still refining their sales pitch. It's been strong, but I know they got some work to do. But
that they do.
John, I would say there's a lot of wonderful monuments around the world. I think of the Statue of Liberty, Christ the Redeemer, or even the Eiffel Tower. What would you say your favorite one is? What would your favorite be?
It's, I would say by far it's the Eiffel Tower. It's something that brings people together, and it's a unique experience. I don't know if you've ever experienced the Eiffel Tower, but I mean, it's something you'll never forget.
No, I remember I was lucky enough to go to Paris a few years ago and got to stand outside the Louvre, and you got to see it just light up at night, and it's really an impressive sight, and the number of people that gather under there can be just eye-opening when you're there. So yeah, no, I knew that was a favorite spot of yours. Just wanted to make sure you didn't change your mind on me. But Allison, how would you rank these four in terms of most beautiful? Maui, Oahu, Kauai, or Hawaii?
Oh, wow. Maui, and then Maui, and then Maui.
No, okay.
There you go. Okay.
It's like Dylon being one of all five of the best rappers alive on the Chappelle Show.
Yeah, Honolulu is 800,000 people. I mean, that's like, there's Waikiki's crowded, so that's not my cup of tea. But if I'm going to get away, I want to go to a secluded place and just hang out. And I think Kauai is a little too quiet for me, so Maui's kind of the perfect blend.
Yeah, but if you were to spend 7 years in college, where would you think that would get you?
I'm assuming that's directed at me.
Yeah, that might be John.
I thought I had a house of learned doctors. When I married my wife, she was going to medical school, and I had dreams of being a stay-at-home dad married to a doctor. But I thought, well, that didn't work out. So I thought maybe my son. And he was at Tech almost 7 years. I assumed he was working on his doctorate. As it turns out, not so much. He was working on an undergraduate. But, I can always, one day, maybe grandkids. You never know.
Hey, as someone else who didn't take the traditional path at Texas Tech, I've learned that things often work out, and it's not your start, it's your finish. So I know Cal's off doing great things. I just wanted to teach you a little bit about that.
I appreciate it.
You have, I have an appreciation for, your family and everything that they've done. But final question for both of y'all: craziest sale call you've been on in this role, or just in general?
Oh, I think we both have the same answer.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the same answer. And unfortunately, I don't think we can share a whole lot about it because it's a local business.
Mm-hmm. But off the charts crazy.
Does it involve the White Wizard?
It does. It involved monkeys and a lightning strike.
Snakes.
And a shaman priestess. A house made out of tires and glass.
Baptist.
I'm assuming y'all are gonna have to write a book after this is all done, because y'all have some stories to share for sure. But no, yeah, I do want to thank you both for taking time out of your day to spend some time talking with me, not only diving in more about both of you and your background, and just a little bit more openness with how you kind of operate, but also thank you for everything you guys are doing for our city. I think if you look over y'all's time here, we've seen a lot of growth and a lot of tremendous opportunity, and things just seem like they're going to continue to blow and go. And I know that we still have some developments coming forward, and people are still excited about Farmers Branch. And I feel confident every day that you guys and the rest of your teams have the ability to see that through and make great decisions for Farmers Branch to keep moving us in the right direction. So just want to thank you both for being here and for your leadership.
Yeah. And thanks for yours. And Robert, I hope that you'd be willing to come on my show one day.
Yeah. Anytime, anytime. But just want to thank everyone for watching Mornings with the Mayor. Again, Robert Dye. If you like the show, be looking for the next episode where we'll be having a conversation with Police Chief David Hale. I know him and his team are on the front lines every day, providing wonderful service and just being the heroes that they are. And so just want to check in with him, what's going on, and maybe find out a little bit more about the future policing. But for now, stay safe, stay home, and as much as you can, stay positive. See you later.